My name is Nora Whitaker. I'm 30 years old, and I've spent the last 8 years working as a physical therapist in Portland, Oregon. My job has taught me that people rarely tell you where the pain really starts. They point to a shoulder, a knee, or a back injury, but if you listen long enough, the truth is usually somewhere else. The same turned out to be true about my family. The afternoon my father told me to leave our annual 4th of July barbecue, everyone acted as if I were the one causing a scene. He looked straight at me, set down his paper plate, and said quietly enough that only the closest relatives could hear. "If you can't respect this family, Nora, you can leave my property." Several people nodded without looking at me. My younger brother avoided my eyes. My aunt suddenly became very interested in refilling the lemonade. Nobody questioned my father. I almost walked away. Then I looked across the backyard at the old maple tree beside the fence, and for the first time in years, something didn't feel right. Because there was one detail my father had forgotten. One document he never imagined I had seen. And one signature that meant the land beneath all of us wasn't actually his. I didn't know it then, but that sentence would unravel 30 years of carefully managed family history. Before I tell you how everything happened, welcome to the channel. If you enjoy thoughtful family stories built around real emotions, quiet mysteries, and unexpected truths, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Your support helps more people discover these stories. Now let me take you back to where it really began. For most people, the Whitaker family barbecue was something to envy. Every summer, relatives came from different parts of Oregon and Washington. Folding tables filled the backyard. Children chased each other with water balloons. Someone always burned the first batch of burgers while pretending they hadn't. It looked ordinary. Comfortable. The kind of family gathering people post online with captions about gratitude. I knew better. Not because anyone screamed or threw plates. My family wasn't like that. Everything uncomfortable happened quietly. A glance across the table. Someone left out of a conversation. A birthday gift noticeably smaller than everyone else's. An invitation that somehow arrived after everyone had already made plans. Tiny things. Easy to dismiss if you only saw one. Impossible to ignore after years of collecting them. I've replayed those summers more times than I can count. At the time, I convinced myself I was imagining the pattern. After all, my father, Richard Whitaker, was respected by almost everyone who knew him. He owned a successful landscaping company and had built a reputation as someone dependable. People described him as generous. At family gatherings, he laughed easily. He grilled steaks. He remembered birthdays. He told stories that made everyone smile. Looking at him from the outside, you would never suspect there was another version of him. The one that appeared only when certain people weren't watching. Especially me. My mother, Elaine, always tried to smooth things over before they became uncomfortable. She believed silence solved more problems than honesty. Sometimes she was right. Sometimes silence simply gave problems more room to grow. As for me, I had built a life that didn't depend on anyone in that backyard. I rented a small townhouse close to the rehabilitation clinic where I worked. Most evenings ended with patient notes, a cup of tea that usually went cold beside my laptop, and a stack of library books waiting on the kitchen table. It wasn't glamorous. But it was peaceful. Peace has a way of making old noise easier to hear. A week before that barbecue, an envelope had arrived in my mailbox. No return address. Just my name written in careful handwriting I didn't recognize. Inside was a single photocopied document. At first glance, it looked like nothing important. By the end of that weekend, I realized it might explain everything my family had spent decades pretending wasn't there. And that was exactly why my father wanted me gone. The photocopy stayed inside the same manila envelope for several days. I carried it from the kitchen table to my work bag and back again without opening it a second time. Something about it unsettled me, though I couldn't have explained why. It wasn't dramatic. There was no threatening note or anonymous accusation. Just a faded legal document with a county seal, a property description, and a signature that seemed oddly familiar. I filed it away. Work was busy that week. Summer always brought more patients recovering from hiking injuries, cycling accidents, and knee replacements. My schedule left little room to think about family. In some ways, I preferred it that way. People recovering from injuries taught me something important. Healing rarely happened in one dramatic moment. It happened through small, consistent movements. Families, I had learned, often broke apart the same way. The barbecue was scheduled for Saturday afternoon. My father hosted it every year at the same property outside Salem, a 5-acre piece of land everyone simply called Grandpa's place. The house itself wasn't large. It was a modest white farmhouse with green shutters, an old wraparound porch, and flower beds my grandmother had once cared for herself. Behind it stretched a wide lawn shaded by towering maple trees. Every childhood memory I had seemed to begin there. Fishing in the pond. Running barefoot across the grass. Helping Grandpa stack firewood. After he died 12 years earlier, my father simply became the person who organized everything. No one questioned it. At least, not out loud. When I arrived that Saturday, the driveway was already crowded with pickup trucks and SUVs. My cousin Evan waved as I parked. "Nora. You actually made it." "I usually do." He laughed. "I know. Mom was betting you'd have to work." I traded shifts. "Good. Grandma would have hated missing you." That caught my attention. "Grandma?" He nodded toward the porch. "She insisted on coming this year." I hadn't expected that. My grandmother, Margaret Whitaker, was 84 now. Arthritis had slowed her down, and she'd moved into an assisted living community the previous winter. She rarely attended large family gatherings anymore. Seeing her sitting quietly in her favorite rocking chair made me smile. She looked smaller than I remembered. But her eyes were exactly the same. Sharp. Observant. Nothing escaped her. She reached for my hand before I even said hello. "You've lost weight," she said. "I've been busy." "You've been avoiding this place." There wasn't any accusation in her voice. Only certainty. "I've had work." She gave me a look that suggested she knew better. Work isn't always the reason people stay away. Before I could answer, my mother stepped onto the porch carrying a tray of iced tea. "There you are," she said warmly. "Your father wondered when you'd arrive." I smiled politely. "Traffic." She brushed an invisible wrinkle from my shirt. "You look tired." "Occupational hazard." "I wish you'd take a vacation." "I like my job." "I know." She hesitated. "But sometimes I think you work so hard because it's easier than coming home." There it was again. That quiet awareness. My mother saw more than she admitted. She simply chose not to do anything about it. Inside the house, the familiar routines unfolded almost automatically. My Aunt Denise arranged desserts. Uncle Harold argued with my father over charcoal versus propane. The younger kids ran through the hallway despite repeated warnings not to. Everything looked normal. Yet I noticed little things. My brother, Daniel, 32, barely acknowledged me before walking off with my father. His wife, Melissa, greeted everyone else with a hug but offered me only a polite smile. Nobody was openly rude. That wasn't how our family operated. The unfairness was always subtle enough to deny. During lunch, seating seemed almost accidental. Except it never was. Daniel sat beside my father. Melissa beside Daniel. My mother beside Grandma. I found myself at the far end of the table next to 12-year-old Olivia, my cousin's daughter. Children don't notice politics. They notice kindness. I'm glad you're here, Olivia whispered while arranging watermelon slices on her plate. So am I. You always listen. I smiled. I try. She leaned closer. Everybody gets quiet when Grandpa Richard talks. I glanced toward my father. He was laughing with my uncles. Confident. Comfortable. As though the entire afternoon belonged to him. Then Grandma quietly placed her hand over mine beneath the table. She didn't look at me. She kept watching the yard. Almost under her breath, she said something I nearly missed. Have you looked at the old papers yet? I turned toward her. What papers? But before she could answer, my father stood up and tapped his glass. I've got something I'd like to announce. Every conversation stopped. And I suddenly realized Grandma's question wasn't random. It was a warning. My father waited until every conversation faded before he spoke. He didn't need to raise his voice. He never did. When your grandfather bought this place, he began, lifting a glass of iced tea, he dreamed it would always keep this family together. A few people smiled. Someone nodded. It was the kind of speech he gave every summer. Short. Warm. Predictable. But time changes things, he continued. As we get older, it's important to think about the future. We have to protect what this family has built. The word protect stayed with me. Not because of how he said it. Because of the photocopy waiting inside my purse. I hadn't shown it to anyone. Not even Grandma. Not yet. I've been meeting with an attorney, my father said. Nothing urgent. Just making sure everything is organized for the next generation. Daniel smiled proudly. Almost like he'd rehearsed the announcement already. Melissa reached for his hand. Across the table, my mother lowered her eyes to her plate. Grandma remained perfectly still. I should have noticed that. Most people think silence means agreement. Sometimes it's the exact opposite. When lunch ended, everyone drifted into familiar routines. The children disappeared toward the pond. My uncles gathered around the grill to argue about football. My aunts cleared dishes while insisting they didn't need help. I offered anyway. My Aunt Denise smiled politely. We've got it. She handed a stack of plates to Melissa instead. It was such a small thing. Another person might never have noticed. I had been noticing those moments for years. They accumulated quietly. Like dust on old furniture. Individually insignificant. Together impossible to ignore. I stepped onto the back porch with a fresh cup of coffee. The afternoon sun warmed the wooden railing. Beyond the yard, the maple trees barely moved in the breeze. Everything looked exactly as it had when I was 10 years old. Except I wasn't 10 anymore. Physical therapy trains you to observe movement. Tiny shifts in posture. Weight distribution. The hesitation before someone admits pain. Without thinking, I'd started watching my own family the same way. Daniel spent almost the entire afternoon beside our father. Whenever relatives asked questions about future holidays or maintenance on the property, my father answered first. Daniel answered second. Almost like they had become a single voice. Nobody asked Grandma. That struck me as strange. For years, she had known every inch of this property. Every fruit tree. Every fence repair. Every neighbor. Now people talked around her instead of to her. She noticed it too. I could tell. Later, I found her alone in the garden, sitting on an old wooden bench beneath the shade of a pear tree. She wasn't looking at the flowers. She was looking toward the farmhouse. I used to weed this garden every Saturday, she said quietly when I sat beside her. I remember. You always wanted the watering can. I laughed softly. I mostly spilled it. You were determined. We sat together for a while. No hurry. No awkwardness. Grandma had always understood that silence didn't need to be filled. Finally she asked, "Did you open the envelope?" I looked at her. "You know about it?" "I know someone finally sent it." "Who?" She shook her head. "If they wanted you to know that, they'd have signed their name." I reached into my purse and carefully unfolded the photocopy. It was an old property deed. The county seal was faded but readable. Several signatures appeared across the bottom. One belonged to my grandfather. Another belonged to someone whose name I'd never heard before. And then there was a handwritten note in the margin. The copy wasn't clear enough to read every word. Only one sentence stood out. "Transfer upon recorded trust agreement." I looked back at Grandma. "I don't understand." "You aren't supposed to." She folded the document again and handed it back. "Not yet." "Why send this to me?" "Because you're the only one who asks questions before making decisions." That sounded like a compliment. It also sounded like a burden. "What aren't you telling me?" Grandma watched a robin land near the fence. "When your grandfather got sick, a lot of paperwork was signed." "I know." "No." She looked directly at me. "You know what your father wanted everyone to believe." The distinction caught me off guard. Before I could respond, footsteps crunched across the gravel path. My mother approached carrying a pitcher of lemonade. She slowed when she saw the document in my hand. For just a second? Only a second? The color drained from her face. Then she smiled. Too quickly. "Everything all right?" she asked. Grandma answered before I could. "We're just remembering old times." Mom looked at me. Then at the folded paper. Then back at Grandma. "I think Richard's looking for you, Nora." "About what?" He didn't say. Grandma gently squeezed my wrist. So lightly no one else would notice. Then she whispered, "Whatever he asks." She paused. "Don't tell him you've seen that document." At that moment, I realized something that hadn't occurred to me before. The envelope hadn't started the mystery. It had interrupted one that had been carefully protected for more than a decade. And my father was already trying to find out how much I knew. I folded the photocopy and slipped it back into my purse before walking toward the house. My mother's expression stayed with me. She had always been careful about hiding her emotions. Growing up, I couldn't remember seeing her lose her temper or raise her voice. If something frightened her, she usually smiled a little more than usual. That was exactly what she'd done a moment earlier. My father was standing near the garage with Daniel. They stopped talking as I approached. It was subtle. The kind of pause most people wouldn't notice. I did. "There you are," my father said with an easy smile. "Can I borrow you for a minute?" "Of course." Daniel checked his phone almost immediately. "I should go help Melissa." He walked away without another word. I watched him disappear around the side of the house. "I've been meaning to ask," my father said. "How's work?" "Busy." "You still at the same clinic?" "Yes." "You like it?" "I do." He nodded thoughtfully. "Helping people suits you." For a few moments, we simply stood there listening to children laughing near the pond. Then his voice changed almost imperceptibly. "You've been spending time with your grandmother lately?" "A little." "Good." Another pause. "Has she mentioned anything unusual?" I looked at him. "What do you mean?" "Oh, nothing serious." He smiled again. You know how memory works at her age. There was nothing openly cruel about the sentence. But it landed heavily. My grandmother had forgotten small things recently. Names of restaurants. Appointment times. where she'd left her reading glasses. She had never forgotten people, or legal documents, or family history. I answered carefully. We mostly talked about work. That's good. He studied my face for another second. As long as she's not worrying you. I think she's doing pretty well. I'm glad to hear that. The conversation ended there. At least on the surface. As he walked back toward the guests, I realized he hadn't actually been asking about Grandma. He'd been measuring my answers. I've replayed that conversation many times. At the time, it felt slightly strange. Later, it became impossible to ignore. The afternoon settled into its usual rhythm. Children splashed around the pond. My uncles argued over horseshoes. Someone turned on old country music from a portable speaker. The smell of grilled corn drifted across the yard. Ordinary details. That's what I remember most. The ordinary moments that surrounded something much larger. I found myself helping Olivia look for a badminton shuttlecock that had disappeared beneath a hedge. You're better at finding things, she said. What makes you think that? You always notice stuff. I laughed. That's an interesting compliment. My mom says you remember everything. I almost replied. Instead, I asked, is that good or bad? Olivia shrugged. I think it makes people nervous. Children often understand more than adults realize. We found the shuttlecock beneath a garden bench. As we stood up, I noticed two men walking slowly along the edge of the property. One was my father. The other wasn't family. He wore pressed khaki pants despite the summer heat, carried a leather portfolio under one arm, and occasionally pointed toward different sections of the land. The conversation looked professional. Not social. I watched them stop near the old barn. The man opened the portfolio. My father nodded several times. Then they shook hands. When I looked again a minute later, the stranger was driving away. Daniel watched his car disappear from the driveway before joining my father. Neither of them noticed I had been watching. Or maybe they assumed I wouldn't ask. Around 6 o'clock, everyone gathered for dessert. Grandma insisted on sitting outside instead of inside the dining room. It smells better out here, she said. Nobody argued. Cherry pie. Vanilla ice cream. Coffee. The evening sunlight softened everything. For a little while, it almost felt like the family gatherings I remembered as a child. Then my Aunt Denise looked toward the farmhouse. So, Richard, she said casually, did your lawyer ever finish updating the paperwork? The conversation around the table quieted. Only slightly. But enough. My father smiled. Almost. What paperwork? Uncle Harold asked. Just estate planning. Smart idea. Daniel nodded. Better to get everything settled while everyone agrees. My grandmother stopped stirring her coffee. Very slowly, she placed the spoon onto the saucer. The tiny sound seemed louder than the conversations around us. Then she spoke. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just one calm sentence. That depends on whose permission you're talking about. Silence settled over the table. My father looked at her. What do you mean, Mom? She met his eyes without blinking. I mean exactly what I said. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Even the children seemed to sense something had shifted. My father forced a small laugh. I think you're confused. Grandma didn't answer him. Instead, she turned to me. And in front of every member of the family, she quietly asked, Nora, did you bring the envelope I hoped you'd receive? Every face at the table turned toward me. Including my father's. For the first time all day. He looked genuinely afraid. No one spoke. The backyard, which had been filled with quiet conversations only seconds earlier, seemed to lose every sound except the wind moving through the maple trees. I felt every pair of eyes settle on me. My father recovered first. "What envelope?" he asked with a small laugh. It sounded practiced. Too light for the moment. Grandma didn't look at him. She kept her eyes on me. "Nora." I could hear my own heartbeat. Not because I was panicking. Because I knew whatever I said next would change something. I answered carefully. "I did receive an envelope." My father folded his arms. "What was in it?" "I haven't figured that out yet." That was true. I understood pieces. Not the whole picture. Grandma gave the smallest nod, almost as if I'd passed a test. My father stepped closer. "Who sent it?" "There wasn't a name." "Can I see it?" His request came too quickly. Almost before I'd finished speaking. I noticed Daniel watching him instead of me. That struck me as odd. It was as though even my brother hadn't expected our father's reaction. "I left it in my purse," I said. "Then bring it over." His tone remained polite. But it was no longer a request. "I'd rather wait until I understand what it is." His smile disappeared. "Nora. I don't think that's unreasonable." For several long seconds, neither of us spoke. Then my mother quietly stood. "I think everyone's dessert is melting." It was her usual way of rescuing difficult conversations. Normally, it worked. This time, nobody reached for their pie. Grandma finally broke the silence. "Richard." My father looked at her. "Sit down." He didn't move. I said. She repeated calmly. "Sit down." To my surprise, he did. I filed that away. Even now, at 84, she still had authority he couldn't completely ignore. She folded her hands in her lap before speaking. "When your father became sick," she said, "he made several decisions." My father interrupted. "We've already talked about this." "No." She shook her head. "You talked." "I handled everything." "You handled many things." The distinction hung in the air. My Aunt Denise looked confused. "I thought Grandpa left everything to Richard." Several relatives nodded. That had always been the story. Grandma answered softly. "That's what everyone was told." Nobody spoke after that. The sentence settled over the table like unexpected rain. I looked toward my mother. She wasn't surprised. She looked tired. There is a difference. People are surprised by new information. They're tired of information they've carried for years. I should have recognized it sooner. My father stood again. "This isn't the time." Grandma remained calm. "No." She glanced around the table. "It should have happened years ago." He took a slow breath. "Mom, you're confusing people." "No, Richard." Her voice stayed remarkably gentle. "I'm simply refusing to confuse them any longer." 10 minutes later, relatives slowly drifted into smaller conversations. Not because anyone believed the tension had ended. Because nobody knew what to say. Families have an instinct for postponing uncomfortable truths. It's one of the ways secrets survive. I walked toward the old barn, hoping for a few quiet minutes. The evening air had cooled. Crickets had begun replacing the sounds of children. The barn looked exactly as it always had. Faded red paint. A rusted weather vane. One broken window that my grandfather had promised to replace every summer and somehow never did. Inside, dust floated through narrow beams of sunlight. Old gardening tools hung neatly along one wall. Shelves held coffee cans filled with nails, screws, and faded labels in Grandpa's handwriting. Seeing his handwriting again made something tighten in my chest. He had labeled everything. He believed order made life easier. Near the back wall stood an old wooden workbench. I remembered building birdhouses there with him when I was 8. Without thinking, I brushed dust from its surface. Something caught my attention. The bench wasn't sitting flat. One corner rested slightly higher than the others. Curious, I knelt beside it. A small metal latch was hidden beneath the edge. I pulled it gently. A narrow compartment slid open. I stared. Inside lay a weathered leather folder. Nothing else. No money. No jewelry. Just one folder. It looked as though no one had touched it in years. I hesitated before opening it. The first page contained copies of property surveys. The second held correspondence between my grandfather and an attorney. The third made me stop breathing for a moment. It wasn't a deed. It wasn't a will. It was something titled Whitaker Family Property Trust. Below the title appeared several names. Grandpas, grandmas, and attorneys. And one final line that had been highlighted decades ago. The beneficiary designation. My own name wasn't there. Neither was my father's. Instead, there was another name I recognized immediately. One that changed everything I thought I knew about our family. Before I could read another word, I heard footsteps outside the barn. Slow. Deliberate. Someone had followed me. And judging by the sound, they already knew exactly where I was. The footsteps stopped just outside the barn door. I closed the leather folder without thinking and slipped it beneath an old canvas drop cloth lying on the workbench. Years of working with patients had taught me that people reveal more when they believe you haven't noticed them. I stood, brushed the dust from my jeans, and turned toward the entrance. It was my mother. She looked relieved when she saw me. I've been looking everywhere, she said. I just wanted some quiet. Her eyes moved around the barn before settling on my face. You always came here with your grandfather. I remember. So do I. She stepped inside and closed the door behind her. The sound echoed through the empty building. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then she asked the question I had been expecting all afternoon. Did you find anything? She hadn't asked if I was all right. She hadn't asked why I came to the barn. She had asked if I found anything. I answered carefully. Why would you think I was looking? She smiled, but only with her mouth. Because you're Richard's daughter. I'm your daughter too. Yes. She looked down at the old wooden floor. And sometimes I wish you'd inherited a little less from him. That surprised me. My mother rarely criticized anyone directly. Especially my father. You knew there was something hidden here. It wasn't a question. She nodded once. I suspected. But you never looked? I promised someone I wouldn't. Grandpa? No. She looked toward the workbench. Your grandmother. I leaned against one of the support beams. Why? Because she believed the right person would eventually find it. And she thought that person was me? I think she hoped it would be. The distinction mattered. Hope wasn't certainty. I had learned that much from rehabilitation. People hoped they would recover. Evidence told a different story. I don't understand what's happening, I admitted. You understand more than you think. I have a photocopy of an old deed. I know. I found a trust. Her breathing slowed. So it was still there. You knew. I knew your grandfather never threw important papers away. She hesitated before adding. I didn't know whether Richard had already found them. The sentence settled heavily between us. For the first time that day, I realized my mother wasn't protecting my father. She was afraid of him finding something before anyone else did. I should have noticed that difference years ago. Outside, I heard children laughing again. Life has a strange habit of continuing while important things quietly fall apart. My mother walked toward the dusty window overlooking the backyard. From there we could see relatives carrying folding chairs toward the fire pit. Everything looked normal. If someone had taken a photograph at that moment, it would have looked like an ordinary family gathering. Photographs rarely capture tension. Only expressions. "Mom," I said softly, "what aren't you telling me?" She remained facing the window. "When your grandfather became ill, he started organizing everything." "I know." "No." She shook her head. "You know what everyone repeated afterward." She turned toward me. "The real meetings happened months before anyone else knew he was sick." "Who attended?" "Your grandparents." "The attorney?" "Yes." "And Dad?" "Sometimes." Her answer was careful. Too careful. "Sometimes?" "There were meetings your father wasn't invited to." That caught me completely off guard. "Why?" She looked at me for several seconds before answering. "Because your grandfather had started asking questions." "What kind of questions?" "The kind that change how you see people." Before I could respond, someone knocked lightly on the open barn door. It was Olivia. She looked embarrassed. "Sorry," she said. "Grandma Margaret wants Nora." "Is everything okay?" I asked. Olivia shrugged. "I don't know." Then she lowered her voice. "But 2 men just arrived." "What men?" "They're wearing suits." I exchanged a quick glance with my mother. Her face lost its color. "The attorney," she whispered. "Or someone from the county." We walked back toward the house together. As we reached the edge of the yard, I saw them standing beside my father. One was the same man I'd seen earlier with the leather portfolio. The other was older, carrying a flat document case. Several relatives had stopped talking. Even those who didn't know what was happening sensed the atmosphere had changed. Grandma remained seated on the porch. Completely calm. She looked at me once. Then she looked at the older man. He gave her a respectful nod before opening his document case. My father stepped forward immediately. "There's no need to do this today." The older man answered politely. "I'm sorry, Mr. Whitaker." He removed a sealed envelope bearing the county recorder's stamp. "But according to the written instructions left with our office." He paused, looking directly at my grandmother. "Today is exactly the day this must be opened." And for the first time all afternoon, I saw genuine uncertainty on my father's face. No one moved. The older man held the sealed envelope with both hands, waiting. My father was the first to speak. "This is a private family matter." "It is," the man replied calmly. "Which is why I was instructed to deliver it only in the presence of Mrs. Margaret Whitaker and all direct family members." His voice carried the confidence of someone reading instructions he had followed many times before. There was no emotion in it. Only procedure. That made it harder to argue with. My grandmother looked toward the empty chair beside her. "Please," she said to me. "Sit." I did. The rest of the family slowly gathered around the porch. My Aunt Denise looked confused. Uncle Harold folded his arms. Daniel stood beside our father but seemed noticeably less certain than he had earlier that afternoon. The older man introduced himself. "My name is Thomas Reynolds. I worked with attorney Charles Everett for nearly 20 years." The name meant nothing to me. It clearly meant something to Grandma. She smiled faintly. "I wondered if Charlie would send you. He retired last winter." I imagine he finally listened to his wife. A few people smiled politely, unsure why they were discussing retirement. Then Mr. Reynolds carefully broke the seal. He removed several folded pages. I was instructed to read this statement exactly as written. He adjusted his glasses. If this letter is being read, then Margaret has decided the time for silence has ended. No one interrupted. For many years, I allowed my oldest son, Richard, to believe he understood my final wishes. I looked toward my father. His jaw tightened. That assumption was never corrected because correcting it too early would have placed unnecessary pressure on Margaret while I was still alive. My aunt frowned. I don't understand. Neither did I. Not yet. Mr. Reynolds continued. The property known within our family as Grandpa's place was never intended to belong to one person. A murmur spread through the relatives. My father stepped forward. That's impossible. Mr. Reynolds didn't even look up. He simply kept reading. Because I became concerned about decisions being made before my death, I established a family trust to prevent the property from being sold, transferred, or controlled by any single heir. The words settled over the porch. Slowly. Heavily. I thought back to the folder hidden in the barn. The title matched exactly. Whitaker Family Property Trust. My father laughed quietly. It wasn't a happy sound. There must be some mistake. There isn't, Mr. Reynolds answered. I've been handling trust administration for 11 years. 11 years. That meant the trust had existed almost since Grandpa died. Without anyone mentioning it. Or perhaps, without everyone mentioning it. I looked at my mother. She wasn't surprised. She closed her eyes for just a second. Almost as though she had been waiting for this moment for years. Daniel finally spoke. Dad. It's fine. No. Daniel swallowed. You told me there wasn't any trust. My father's head turned slowly toward him. I told you what mattered. The sentence hung in the air. Daniel looked genuinely shaken. That was the moment I realized something important. He wasn't part of whatever had happened years earlier. He had simply believed our father. Just as everyone else had. Mr. Reynolds unfolded another page. There is one more section. He looked toward my grandmother. She nodded. The trust shall remain active until Margaret Whitaker determines that every beneficiary has reached sufficient maturity to place truth above personal advantage. Several relatives exchanged puzzled looks. Beneficiaries. Plural. Not beneficiary. Mr. Reynolds continued. Upon Margaret's written authorization, control of the trust shall immediately transfer to the appointed successor trustee identified in Schedule B. My father interrupted again. And who exactly is that? Mr. Reynolds reached into the document case. This time he removed a certified copy instead of another letter. He handed it directly to my grandmother. She didn't read it. She simply passed it to me. Nora, she said quietly. You should see it. My hands trembled slightly as I looked at the page. Near the bottom appeared a single heading. Successor trustee. Beneath it, my own name. I stared at it for several seconds. I'm the trustee? Not yet, Mr. Reynolds corrected gently. Only after Mrs. Whitaker signs the activation documents. I looked at Grandma. She smiled for the first time all day. Your grandfather believed you would know the difference between owning something. She paused. And protecting it. The silence that followed felt endless. Then my father spoke. His voice was calm. Too calm. I'd like a moment alone with my daughter. No, Grandma said immediately. It won't be alone. Richard looked at her. Mom. You've had 11 years. She folded her hands in her lap. Now it's Nora's turn. Before anyone could say another word, Mr. Reynolds reached into his document case one last time. There is one final item. He placed a small sealed envelope in my hands. This wasn't left for the family. He looked directly at me. It was left only for you. Across the front, in my grandfather's unmistakable handwriting, were 7 simple words. Open only after the truth begins. The envelope felt surprisingly heavy for its size. Not because of what was inside. Because everyone was watching it. My grandfather's handwriting was unmistakable. I had seen it on birthday cards, gardening notes, and the labels on old coffee cans in the barn. The careful block letters hadn't changed. Open only after the truth begins. My father took one step forward. Nora. His voice was steady. You don't have to do this in front of everyone. Before I could answer, Mr. Reynolds spoke. The envelope belongs to Ms. Whitaker. That ended the discussion. No one reached for it again. I slid my finger beneath the seal. Inside were 3 folded pages and a small brass key attached to a faded paper tag. The tag read, Safety Deposit Box 214. I looked at the key first. Then I unfolded the letter. The paper had yellowed with age. The date at the top caught my attention. It had been written almost 13 years earlier, only a few weeks before my grandfather passed away. I began reading silently. After the first paragraph, Grandma said quietly, Read it aloud. I looked up. Are you sure? Yes. I took a slow breath. Dear Nora. If you're reading this, then your grandmother decided the family is finally ready to hear what I could never safely explain while I was alive. No one moved. If everything had gone according to plan, this letter would never have been necessary. Unfortunately, I began seeing decisions made that convinced me our family needed protection, not from strangers, but from ourselves. I paused. My father's eyes never left me. I continued. Years ago, I asked Richard to help me organize the property records. During that process, I discovered documents had been prepared for me to sign while I was heavily medicated after surgery. Aunt Denise gasped softly. When I questioned them later, I was told I had misunderstood what they contained. The backyard was completely silent. Even the children had stopped talking. I turned to the next page. I consulted attorney Charles Everett without telling anyone except your grandmother. Together we created the Whitaker Family Property Trust. Its purpose was simple: no single family member would ever control this land alone. I lowered the page. My father finally spoke. That's ridiculous. His voice remained controlled. He was confused during that period. Grandma looked directly at him. No. Just one word. Nothing more. But it carried years of certainty. Mr. Reynolds reached into his portfolio. I anticipated that concern. He placed 2 certified medical records on the porch table. These were provided under Mr. Everett's instructions. He turned one page toward everyone. The dates are important. I looked more closely. The medical records showed my grandfather had fully recovered from surgery nearly 3 weeks before he met with attorney Everett. The timeline mattered. If he had been mentally competent, the claim that he had been confused no longer fit. Facts have a quiet strength. They don't need dramatic speeches. My father looked at the documents without touching them. Then he looked at me. You actually believe this? I believe the dates. Those papers don't prove anything. They prove Grandpa wasn't under medication when he created the trust. They don't prove why. No, I answered calmly. They don't. He relaxed slightly. For the first time all afternoon, I thought the conversation might simply end there. Then my mother spoke. I can prove why. Every head turned toward her. She stood slowly, smoothing invisible wrinkles from her blouse. I've stayed quiet for 13 years. She looked at my father with sadness rather than anger. I told myself I was protecting the family. She shook her head. I was protecting the appearance of the family. Richard stared at her. Elaine. You asked me to witness those papers. No one interrupted. You told me they were routine estate documents. She swallowed. A week later, your father showed me copies. He asked why his signature looked different on two separate versions. The words settled over the porch one by one. I didn't know what to say. My father took a step toward her. Be careful. I'm finally being careful. She reached into her handbag. I kept something all these years. From a slim plastic folder, she removed 2 photocopies. She handed them to Mr. Reynolds. He compared them silently. Then he looked up. They're the same document. He paused. With 2 different signatures. No one spoke. Not even my father. Mr. Reynolds laid both copies side by side on the table. One signature flowed naturally. The other appeared stiff, uneven, and strangely traced. I've worked with estate records for over 30 years, he said quietly. I'm not a handwriting expert. He looked at both pages again. But these are not consistent. My father didn't argue. He simply stared at the papers. For the first time since the barbecue began. He had no explanation. Then a black sedan turned slowly into the driveway. A woman in a navy business suit stepped out carrying a leather briefcase. Mr. Reynolds recognized her immediately. I wasn't expecting her until Monday. Who is she? I asked. He answered without taking his eyes off the driveway. The forensic document examiner. He took a slow breath. And she's bringing the original signatures. The woman crossed the yard without hurrying. She looked to be in her early 50s, wearing a navy suit that seemed impractical for a summer evening. Her gray hair was neatly tied back, and the leather briefcase in her hand looked older than the car she had arrived in. Mr. Reynolds stepped forward to greet her. Claire. She nodded. Thomas. There was no small talk. Only the quiet familiarity of 2 people who had worked together for years. She introduced herself to the family. My name is Claire Benson. I'm a forensic document examiner. Attorney Everett asked me to retain certain records until they were requested under the terms of the Whitaker Family Trust. She placed the briefcase on the porch table. 2 small combination locks clicked open. Inside were several sealed evidence envelopes, each carefully labeled with dates. Everything about the process felt methodical. Professional. Not emotional. Claire removed the first envelope. The originals have remained in secure storage since they were examined 12 years ago. My father finally spoke. Examined? Yes. By whom? By me. She removed a report with several attached photographs. I was hired to compare signatures on estate documents after Attorney Everett noticed irregularities. She laid enlarged photographs beside the photocopies my mother had kept. Even without any training, the differences became obvious. One signature had natural curves and changes in pressure. The other looked hesitant. Almost copied. Claire pointed to several sections without raising her voice. These pen lifts are unusual. She moved her finger to another image. This line shows hesitation. Then another. The pressure pattern is inconsistent with the verified signatures. She looked around the porch. My opinion then remains my opinion today. She paused. One signature is genuine. She touched the first page. The other was almost certainly simulated. Nobody reacted immediately. Sometimes the truth arrives too quietly to process. I looked toward Daniel. He had gone completely pale. His eyes moved from the report to our father and back again. Dad. His voice was barely above a whisper. You said Grandpa changed his mind. Richard didn't answer. You told me he wanted you to handle everything. Still nothing. Daniel took one slow step backward. You knew? I did what was necessary, my father said. The sentence landed harder than shouting ever could have. Necessary. Not mistaken. Not misunderstood. Necessary. I thought about every family dinner. Every birthday. Every summer afternoon when he spoke about honoring Grandpa's wishes. I wondered how many times he had repeated those words while knowing they weren't true. Grandma closed her eyes. Not in relief. In sadness. I prayed, she said quietly, that one day you'd simply tell the truth. Richard looked at her. You don't understand what I was trying to protect. No. She opened her eyes again. I understand exactly what you were trying to control. The distinction mattered. Control often disguises itself as protection. I had seen it before with patients whose family members insisted on making every decision for them. They always said it was for the patient's own good. Sometimes it was. Sometimes it wasn't. Mr. Reynolds gathered the documents into neat stacks. The trust is now active. He looked toward me. Mrs. Whitaker signed the activation papers this afternoon before we arrived. He handed me a certified folder. As of today, you are the successor trustee. I accepted it carefully. Not because I felt victorious. Because it felt heavier than I expected. Responsibility usually does. Claire closed her briefcase. The remaining evidence will stay on file should legal proceedings become necessary. Legal proceedings. The words hung in the air. No one had mentioned lawsuits until then. My father looked around at the family. For the first time in my life, he seemed unsure of what to say. He looked at Daniel. I'm sorry. Daniel shook his head slowly. I wasn't the one you lied to. Then he looked at me. I believed you were always treated differently because you were stubborn. He gave a sad smile. I never stopped to ask why. I nodded. I didn't either. My mother stepped beside him. We all accepted the easiest explanation. Grandma reached for my hand. The hardest thing about family isn't learning someone made a mistake. She looked across the porch at her son. It's learning they defended it for years. No one argued. There wasn't anything left to argue about. As relatives quietly began leaving the porch, Uncle Harold stopped beside me. I owe you an apology. For what? I always assumed your father was being harder on you because you challenged him. He glanced toward Richard. Now I think he was worried you'd eventually ask the questions the rest of us never did. I watched him walk away. The backyard slowly emptied. Paper plates were gathered. Folding chairs were stacked. Children climbed sleepily into cars, unaware that the family they thought they knew had changed forever. I thought the evening was finally over. Then Mr. Reynolds approached me one last time. There is one remaining responsibility. I looked at him. What responsibility? He handed me a small envelope that had been tucked inside the trust folder. It's addressed to you. Across the front, in my grandfather's handwriting, were 5 simple words. For your first decision only. I hadn't even begun serving as trustee. And somehow, my grandfather had already anticipated the hardest choice I would have to make. I waited until nearly everyone had gone before opening the envelope. The sun had disappeared behind the trees, leaving only the porch light and the soft glow from the kitchen window. The backyard looked different in the evening. The folding tables were empty. Someone had forgotten a pitcher of lemonade near the grill. The American flag still moved gently above the porch. Ordinary things. The kind of details that remain long after extraordinary days. Grandma sat beside me without saying a word. Mr. Reynolds stood a respectful distance away. My mother quietly collected coffee cups. My father remained near the driveway. Alone. I unfolded my grandfather's final letter. It was only 1 page. Nora. If you are reading this, then the trust has become your responsibility. The first decision is the most important one. You will have every legal right to remove Richard from the property forever. Do not make that decision because you are angry. Make it only if it protects the family. Justice and revenge often look alike at first. Give yourself enough time to know the difference. This land was never meant to reward one person. It was meant to remind future generations that families survive only when truth matters more than pride. Whatever you decide, let it be something you can explain to yourself 10 years from now. That is how you'll know it was the right choice. Love, Grandpa. I folded the letter carefully. For several minutes, no one spoke. Finally, Grandma asked, "What are you thinking?" "The same thing I tell my patients." She smiled faintly. "And what's that?" "Good decisions shouldn't be made while the pain is still fresh." She squeezed my hand. "Your grandfather would have liked that." I stood and walked toward my father. He watched me approach but didn't say anything. For the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to earn his approval. I was simply looking at another person. A flawed one. "Nora." His voice sounded tired. "I know." I shook my head gently. "No. I don't think I ever really did." He looked toward the farmhouse. "I convinced myself I was protecting what your grandfather built." "You were protecting your position." He didn't argue. After a long silence, he nodded once. "Maybe I was." It was the first honest sentence I had heard him say all day. "I won't make any decisions tonight," I said. "The trust belongs to the family, not to me." He looked surprised. "I'll work with Mr. Reynolds to make sure every beneficiary understands exactly how the trust operates. Everything will be transparent." I paused. "If you want to remain involved, it will be under the same rules as everyone else." He looked down at the ground. "And if I don't accept that?" "Then the trust will continue without you." There was no anger in my voice. There didn't need to be. The documents had already settled the argument. Facts had done what emotions never could. Over the next several months, we met with attorneys, accountants, and every family member named in the trust. The records were organized. The financial accounts were reviewed. Every decision was documented. Nothing happened behind closed doors anymore. My father eventually resigned from managing the property. No courtroom battle followed. No dramatic confrontation. Only the quiet consequence of evidence replacing assumption. Daniel apologized more than once. Not because he had participated in the deception. Because he had accepted it without asking questions. Our relationship slowly became something it had never been before. Honest. My mother started visiting me every Sunday afternoon. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we simply drank tea while watching the rain through the kitchen window. Silence felt different now. It no longer carried fear. Grandma lived long enough to see another 4th of July barbecue at the farmhouse. This time, the invitations came from the trust office instead of one person. The seating wasn't assigned. No one acted as though the property belonged to them. It belonged to its purpose. A year later, we planted a young maple tree beside the old one Grandpa had loved. A small bronze plaque rested beneath it. It didn't mention the conflict. Only a single sentence my grandfather often repeated. "Take care of what you've been trusted with, and it will take care of those who come after you." Sometimes I still think about the afternoon my father told me to leave his property. At the time, it felt like the end of something. It wasn't. It was the beginning of the first honest chapter our family had ever written. END